Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading, well, deep into the heart of India to a place called Hasdeo, Aranya. Now, if you can picture this, it's a vast, vibrant green expanse, really a biodiversity hotspot. And it's a critical pathway for elephants and quite literally the lifeline for thousands of Adivasi, that's tribal communities. They've called it home for generations. But here's the thing. Beneath this incredible forest, there's coal. Billions of tons of it. And that, well, as you can probably guess, has sparked a huge environmental and social controversy. It's really pitting conservation against industrial interests. A very high-stakes situation.
Exactly. And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive with you today. We want to try and untangle the many complex layers of this conflict, really help you understand the profound stakes involved, not just, for the local communities and the wildlife there, but for the global climate, too.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The core issue seems to be these government approvals, right? Both state and central level, giving the green light to divert massive chunks of this forest for coal mining. Just to give you a sense of the scale, one recent proposal I read involves almost 1,742 hectares.
Wow.
Yeah, that translates to hundreds of thousands of trees just gone. So you've got the mining companies on one side, they see this as development. Progress. But then you have activists, the villagers themselves, environmental scientists, and they argue very strongly it's just destruction.
And what's truly insightful, I think, is how those two terms, development and destruction, they aren't just labels. They really represent fundamentally different visions, don't they?
Right.
For what progress even means.
Yeah.
One prioritizes, economic growth, often with a big environmental cost. The other emphasizes ecological balance, community well-being. It's not just about the immediate physical impact. It's a clash of philosophies about what a good future looks like.
That's a really powerful way to put it. And when we talk about the human side, the sources really stress the forest as the Adivasi community's pantry, pharmacy, and safety net. Can you sort of paint a picture for us? What does that actually mean day to day?
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly comprehensive. Imagine your entire life just woven into the fabric of the forest. People gather wild fruits, for food, firewood for cooking, for warmth, medicinal herbs for healing, fodder for their cattle. They have small farming plots, and they rely directly on the forest resources, the streams. So losing the forest means losing all of that. It's not just packing up and moving house.
No.
It's a severing of these deep historical cultural roots. It's about identity.
That sounds absolutely devastating. And the displacement process itself, I understand it's often really contentious, full of these messy disputes over compensation. And the sources also raise these critical questions about consent, specifically free, prior, and informed consent, the Adivasi consent rules. Were they genuinely followed? Why is that particular rule so crucial?
It's vital, just absolutely vital, because free, prior, and informed consent, or FTIC, it's an internationally recognized principle. It basically ensures that indigenous and tribal communities have the right to give or withhold consent for projects that affect their lands or resources.
Okay.
It's meant to stop forced displacement, make sure their voices are actually heard and respected.
Right.
So when it's not truly followed, it just undermines the very foundation of their rights, their self-determination. And that ties directly into something else critical you mentioned, water. Open cast mining. It fundamentally changes how water moves through the landscape. We're seeing wells running dry, streams becoming silted up or polluted. And that means severe suffering for farmers, for their crops. It's not just some minor inconvenience. It's a direct threat to how they survive.
That connection is so important, isn't it? From losing culture to these very practical daily impacts on water. But let's shift focus slightly to the wildlife. The forest is specifically highlighted as a critical elephant corridor. What exactly does that mean, an elephant corridor? And why is it so important?
Well, an elephant corridor isn't just, a random path. Think of them as ancient highways, routes that these incredible animals have used for centuries to migrate, find food, get to water sources.
Right.
They're absolutely essential for the survival and the genetic diversity of elephant populations.
So if these ancient pathways get broken up by mining, what happens? What are the direct consequences?
They're immediate and dangerous. The elephants get pushed out of their traditional routes. They end up in human settlements, villages, farmland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that leads to damaged crops, naturally, but also dangerous encounters between people and elephants. Tragically, it often results in deaths, both human and elephant deaths.
So it creates a real conflict zone.
Absolutely.
Right.
Driven purely by breaking up their habitat fragmentation.
So, okay, we've looked at the immediate impacts on the ground for people and wildlife. But how does this local situation in Hasdeo, how does it ripple outwards, affect something as huge as global climate?
It's a significant ripple
Yeah.
effect, definitely. You see, these old-growth forests,
Mm-hmm.
they store massive amounts of carbon
Mm-hmm.
in the trees themselves, the leaves, the roots, but also crucially in the soil. So when you clear them, it's like a double hit to the climate.
Right.
First, you release all that stored carbon straight into the atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
Second, you lose that vital carbon sink. The forest isn't there anymore to absorb CO2.
So you're adding emissions and reducing the planet's ability to cope.
Exactly. It's a real accelerator for climate change.
And then, of course, there's the coal itself, burning that coal. The sources say it locks in decades of emissions, which, obviously pushes India further from its climate goals. But sometimes you hear governments talk about compensatory afforestation, planting trees somewhere else to make up for it. Does that actually work? Is it a real solution?
Well, scientists are pretty clear on this. You simply cannot replace an old-growth forest with a plantation and expect the same thing.
Hmm.
A newly planted forest.
Hmm.
It takes decades, maybe centuries, to even begin to replicate the complex biodiversity, the carbon storage capacity, the way it regulates water
Uh-huh.
of a mature natural ecosystem like Hasdeo. It's not an equivalent exchange, not by any measure.
It really sounds like so much of what's being lost is, well, irreplaceable, certainly in the short term, maybe ever. Now, the sources indicate this whole Hasdale controversy, it's been fought on multiple fronts, in courtrooms, through big protests, local village council meetings, panchayats. What has this multi-front battle actually looked like?
It's been a really tenacious fight. There's been significant public mobilization, marches, you mentioned, drawing thousands of people. It shows deep public concern.
Yeah.
And the legal side is, well, it's very complex. Courts have sometimes put temporary pauses on tree felling,
Mm.
but at other times they've allowed it to go ahead. So it creates this really uncertain, frustrating legal situation.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And all of this just keeps highlighting these persistent questions about, were the environmental assessments done honestly? And were those rules for Adivasi consent, that free, prior, and informed consent, were they truly respected? These questions keep coming up.
So looking at the whole picture then, who are the short-term winners, if you can call them that, in this conflict, and what about the long-term losers?
In the short term, I think the primary winners are fairly clear. It's the coal companies and perhaps certain state revenues derived from the mining.
Right, the economic side.
Exactly. But then you contrast that, and the devastating long-term losers are the forest communities themselves, first and foremost. Then the incredible wildlife, the stability of the climate, and, ultimately you could argue it's all of us who rely on a healthy planet. The costs are just so widely distributed and long-lasting.
That is a sobering assessment. Given these really complex challenges, what kinds of solutions are policy experts putting forward? How could we navigate situations like this better?
Well, policy experts are advocating for several key things. First, drawing real, effective no-go zones, areas where mining is just permanently banned in ecologically sensitive forests like Hasdeo.
Makes sense.
Second, a really significant increase in investment in renewable energy sources to genuinely reduce that reliance on coal.
Mm.
And third, and this is critical, guaranteeing genuine participation for local communities in all the decisions that directly affect them and their ancestral lands. Their voices have to be central.
So Hasdeo isn't just about one forest then. It's described often as a test.
Exactly. It really is a test of whether we as a society can truly balance economic growth with justice for these rural communities and with our collective responsibility to the planet. It's like a microcosm of a huge global challenge playing out right there, right now.
And right now, unfortunately, the scorecard doesn't look good. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How these local environmental and social conflicts, like the one in Hasdeo, are so deeply connected to the larger global challenges we all face. And maybe how our own informed awareness, how much that actually matters in shaping what happens next.